Welcome everybody to the Sarpy County and City's Wastewater Agency meeting. It's just our last meeting in the year?
No.
Well, maybe we'll vote on that later. Oh, I guess we can. It's not on the agenda. Today's Wednesday, November 16th. It's 4:02 p.m. now. Copy of the Nebraska Open Meeting Rules are on the north wall. We'll hold the meeting in accordance with those. In attendance today, we have the mayor of Springfield, Bob Roseland, the Gretna city administrator, Paula Dennison, the mayor of Lavissa, Doug Kindig, the mayor of Bellevue, Rusty Hike. I'm Don Kelly. I'm chairman of the Sarpy County Board, and I believe the Papillion representative is en route, and if he shows up, his name will be Michael Kluffner, who's the Public Works Director. Also in attendance today, we have our legal counsel, Adam Charlson, Hush Blackwell, our project engineer, Jeff Thompson, works for the agency, and our treasurer, Phil Green from the city of Papillion. If you would, silence your cell phones, and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we get into the staff and consultant announcements, do any of the agency members have any comments they'd like to make? Okay, then we'll roll right into the staff report, starting with Dan Hoynes, agency administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member mayors. I know that the highlight of your month is to come to these meetings and hear what I have to report each week, because you don't hear anything in the interim time, but be really brief, really busy agenda as we go through. So I wrote 2 preliminary comments, and then I'll address specific items assigned to me in there. But over the neck, between now and the end of the year, tremendous amount of focus is going to be on pursuing the state funding for the grant and completing the WIFIA loan. It's my goal is to have that thing really teed up so at the start of the year that we have a really solid plan to get a decision early in the spring on those 2 issues. So there's several agenda items, but I'll just wait and speak to each one of those, Mr. Chair, member mayors, as they're called up.
Okay. Thank you. Jeff Thompson, agency project engineer.
Thank you, Chairman Kelly. Let's switch that over so they can see it. Just a real quick project update. As Dan said, we've got a long agenda here today, so I won't get into too much detail, but we have received a lot of traction with Hawkins on the project. If you haven't been out, they started digging the wet well for the lift station at Zweibel Creek. They're about at the base of that structure, and they're anticipating on bringing out rebar next week and starting to tie steel and getting ready for the base pour on that particular structure itself. As well as stripping and clearing and grubbing along the alignment of Zweibel Creek all the way up to 72nd Street. If you head down 72nd Street as you get towards the old Randy Sump property, you'll see the project stripped and the topsoil stockpiled and ready for them to start breaking ground there. Hyman's Construction, one of the subcontractors on segment 3, has actually started mobilizing equipment along Platteview Road around 36th Street. They're going to start working on some of the borings along the Platteview Road alignment, as well as some of the creek crossings on either side of Platteview. And then Van Kirk, the other contractor that's sub to Hawkins, is going to start mobilizing equipment next week to start working on their alignment. So just real quick, I will flip through a few photos just to give you folks a general idea. This is not a, are they able to see all this? It's not up on the screen.
Sorry, got a little messed up there. You're good.
This is not a supply yard. This is actually the stockpile of all the pipe material that we pre-procured. It's sitting down in Springfield's wastewater treatment plant property right now. So we have about 2/3 of the pipe that we're expecting delivered, and Hawkins is going to start shagging some of that out next week, as well as some of their subs. SM Henches set the structure at the bore underneath the fairgrounds. That's the manhole structure on the north side of Main Street there. That bore was completed at our last meeting, and I discussed that a little bit, but they actually got the manhole structure set, starting to backfill around that, and then they're actually down along the south end of the alignment down by the EQ basin, and are working their way north now to kind of complete that connection between the fairgrounds and this particular alignment piece here. Zweibel Creek, like I said, you can kind of see the footprint there change a little bit. All that rock around on the right side of the page here is all the staging area. You can see an excavator sitting there. This was early on in the week. They're actually, again, like I said, down to grade, but Hawkins has set up their job trailer on the west side of South 63rd Street there and are working out of that location. Just a quick picture of the silt fence that went up. This is before all the stripping started. And then we actually went out and looked at, Jacob and I went out and looked at the fusing process for the HDPE pipe. This is actually what the inside of the pipe looks like once it's fused. As you look down the pipe, you can kind of see a little bead around the inside, about 2 or 3 sections down. We're actually de-beading the pipe with our project, and they were just kind of demonstrating how all that works. So they bought a fairly substantial amount of brand new equipment to fuse this pipe, both Hymas and Van Kirk. So we went out and just kind of watched how that process works. This is actually the fusing machine here. Just real quick how it works. They bring the 2 pipes together, and they have a reaming head that actually shaves the face of the pipe and kind of marries them up against one another to kind of make sure that they're going to fit. Once they have a good seat there, they drop a heat plate, and then they push the pipe up against the heat plate, and it literally heats it up to the point where when they're ready to back off that heat plate and they push the 2 pipes together, hold it, it actually fuses the pipe and basically plastic welds the pipe together. It's extremely strong and extremely stiff. I was hanging off the end of the pipe structure, and I was literally hanging off the end of that piece with all my weight, and it didn't even flex. So that's about it for an update. I think you're going to start to see a lot more pipe going in along Platteview Road and that here in the next couple weeks, but things are progressing well. Be happy to answer any questions.
So have they ran into any water issues at this point?
We do have groundwater. We took soil borings along the alignment, especially down along La Platte Road in that floodplain area down there. They're anticipating on needing to put in some dewatering wells, and those were all part of our original bid package for them to include. So, yeah, some water, but not a terrible amount to the point where we can't complete our construction.
Okay.
So will the crews be working on like one section at a time, or you have multiple crews out there?
Yeah, so Hawkins is going to be working on the Zweibel Creek section. Hymas is going to be working on segment 3, and Van Kirk's going to be working on segment 4. So we'll have 3 separate independent contractors working, on all segments at any given point in time. So
I guess thing comes to mind just with the traffic on Platteview Road. Do we have any safety issues?
Traffic control plans, we actually discussed that at our construction update meeting today. Traffic control plans are being developed by their traffic engineer, and they'll be submitted to us. We'll get those to Sarpy County EMS Fire, and Hawkins actually even offered to meet with the fire chief and the EMS folks to drive them around and show them kind of what's closing and how to get around the best and fastest from a safety perspective. So,
Okay.
Any other questions?
No?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Adam?
Thank you. As Dan alluded to, we have a number of agenda items that we assisted with on bringing them to the board tonight. And we, on the land rights front, one of the agenda items is the final piece on ZC3 to close out that segment. And then we have one more on segment 4 to button up, and then we are done from east to west to ZC3. And then we have just a few left on segment 3. So we're in great shape there. And then the next push will be on the WIFIA application and things like that. So I'll be supporting the team on that. But I can address questions on the agenda items later. But if you have questions for me now, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll jump right into the consent agenda, 2 items today. Unless any of the agency members want to see those move to the regular agenda for discussion, I'll take a motion to approve as published.
Motion Bellevue?
Second, Springfield.
Okay, motion by Bellevue, second by Springfield. Any further comments or questions? Please vote.
Paula, are you able to vote? Oh, I got it.
Yeah, I did.
5 yay, 1 abstain, motion carried.
Okay, on to the regular agenda. Item 3 is Resolution 49, approving the draft Sarpy County Sewer Economic Expansion Impact Study from Hunden Strategic Advisors. And I'll turn it over to you, Dan, to tee this up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member mayors. This has been on our radar for a couple of months to really zone in, hire some professionals to come in and look and analyze qualitatively and quantitatively what we believe the economic impact will be of this project. I don't want to belabor the issue. We have 2 people. I'll introduce them, and then they're going to provide you really an executive summary of the 100+ pages of the report, and they'll stay on to answer any questions. First, get Rob Hunden. Rob is, are we showing him up here now, Jamie? Or we should have our link to Zoom. Yeah. Rob's the president of the Hunden Group, again, a nationally recognized company, and with joining Rob today is Lexi Cuff. Lexi was really the project manager, the point person. I will tell you that I think it's a comprehensive process. We sought input from all of the agency members, tried to get all the maps right, tried to get everything teed up to get it to a position today where you could vote on it. And last comment I'll have is you're not approving this actuarially or saying it's right or wrong or won't happen or will happen. What you're saying is we accept this report and that believe it to be a valid, solid report. So did we lose our link?
They're up.
I'm afraid the dual won't work on.
Okay, I'm done. I'll pop out. I'm sure you're all happy.
Test.
Ask him if he can hear us.
Can you hear us, Rob?
Yeah.
Can you hear us, Rob?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
All right. So, yeah, if you have any questions there, you do need to hit your green light. Yeah, so the microphone talking stick belongs to you and Lexi, Rob. So thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm going to just really tee it up like you did. Lexi and our team internally did 99% of the work, and I just made sure that everything was copacetic. And so really proud of our team for the work they did. This is really a massive potential undertaking, and one that if you don't do it, I mean, what our study shows is that you're going to forego growth, essentially. You really can't grow in any substantial way without expanding the sewer, and the amount of growth that would be coming over the next 30 years over these multiple phases is obviously in the billions of dollars. And so Lexi will take you through, I think, the high level of it, not all the detail, and we'll go from there. So Lexi, I'll let you take it away.
Great. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, again, we'll go through the high-level executive summary here. Key questions that our report aimed to answer was the ultimate economic impact potential of the sewer expansion project on future economic and real estate development in Sarpy County, but also what that looks like for the state. Again, and if no improvements are made, what are the implications on future impacts? What is the effect of a potential delayed timeline if funding is not provided? So high level here, we'll get into the SWOT overview, which details the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the project as it relates to the sewer expansion in Sarpy County. So starting with the strengths here, growing population base, fastest growing county within the state of Nebraska, accessibility with major highways and roads positioned right in between Omaha and Lincoln, with the established employment base currently and that continued demand for residential and commercial assets, as well as that thriving industrial market, which we will touch on. Weaknesses currently, lack of current infrastructure for the southern portion of the county is dependent on the Omaha area and Douglas County. And then as it relates to the project, just a slow timeline of implementation, which leads us to our opportunities here. Commercial development, residential development to support the continued population growth, growing tax base, revenue sources from the expanded sewer, not only at the local level, but at the state level as well. And again, that significant economic impact. Threats directly related to the project, delayed timeline due to the funding gap for Phase 1A, the immediate need for infrastructure in growing areas, the lack of a master development plan as it relates to commercial and residential development, rising construction cost, need for additional road infrastructure in undeveloped areas, and then lastly, the labor force supply is limited, which could lead to employers potentially relocating. But looking at our key findings of our project, that high demand, Sarpy County has experienced unprecedented growth in the past 15 years as the fastest growing county within the state of Nebraska, which the current infrastructure does not allow further development, as we've seen in the southern portion of the county, despite that demand being there for residential and commercial development. So this could lead to missed opportunities. Again, the expansion is needed in order to accommodate the current and future growth. Expansion is needed to maximize on strong historical demand, and funding proves to be the last hurdle for this project. So if additional sewer is not provided in a timely manner, demand could be accommodated in other nearby states where land and infrastructure is available. So looking at the future opportunities, Sarpy County has significant opportunities to continue to grow with adequate infrastructure in place. The industrial market has boomed in the area within the last 5 years and has the opportunity to become a real hotspot for large developments alike. And it's positioned to be the main benefactor of Omaha's growth given its accessibility and land. So looking at the growth forecast, based on historical growth rates, we forecasted potential growth over the next 30 years to determine the residential and major commercial development. So looking at the historical annual growth rate, roughly 2% annually since 2000, the county has experienced steady and nearly linear growth over the last 2 decades, where future population was projected, assuming a continuation of that linear growth trend over the next 30 years. So I think the main point to emphasize here is that the southern Sarpy County area is expected to receive the most direct benefit from the sewer expansion, accounting for roughly 45% of county growth. So we projected population growth here. The table shows that projected population growth for all of Sarpy County, where the sewer expansion catchment area really is directly impacted of 45% of that household growth. Currently, as of October 2022, Sarpy County has an estimated population of approximately 198,000 residents, looking to increase to nearly 360,000 residents by year 30. So the first phase of the sewer expansion really will have a significant impact on population growth and residential development in the area, and what is now known as somewhat of a rural farm area. So looking at the projected development on a residential and commercial basis, the table details projected multifamily residential and commercial development over the next 30 years. This is based on overall market demand, historical development data, and population growth. where it's expected that the first few years of the project will open acres primarily for residential and industrial development. And as that infrastructure is implemented over time and additional residential development is delivered, it is anticipated traditional commercial developments will be developed shortly after. So by the end of this 30-year time period, roughly 10,660 gross acres would be developed, creating significant impact to the state, county, and local level, which will be shown in the following slides. So looking at the overall state impact on an incremental yearly basis, the following chart shows that what the state of Nebraska receives each year if the sewer is fully expanded over the 30-year time frame. So state sales tax and personal income tax produce the greatest impact to the state. This totals more than $225 million by year 10 and more than $1.4 billion within year 30, assuming full build out. The sewer expansion produces significant impact, again, not only for the local level, but for the state. But this is dependent on the proposed timeline for implementation, and it would differ if phases were to be delayed. And then understanding the summary of the 30-year impacts. So this details the total impacts and one-time construction impacts. So over the 30-year time period, development will have a significant impact in the area. Commercial, residential, and industrial development are expected to generate more than $37 billion in net new spending, $24 billion in net new earnings, and approximately 4,740 new full-time equivalent jobs. Capital fiscal impact for the state, again, is expected to total approximately $15.7 billion. And this is coming from sales, hotel, corporate income, and personal income tax. And then local taxes are expected to generate roughly $9.7 billion. And then looking at those construction impacts, again, with the rising construction cost, this development will be significant. It includes an estimated $17 billion in local labor spending, and this is supporting more than 227,000 jobs over the next 30 years. So state taxes from construction-related spending are estimated at $2.6 billion. So ultimately, what happens if the sewer expansion does not happen? So in order to understand the full economic impact of the project, we considered the overall impact to Sarpy County and the state of Nebraska if the expansion does not happen or does not happen in a timely manner. So following key takeaways are lost opportunity. Ultimately, Sarpy County would miss out on the opportunity to capitalize on the current growth and future development if the sewer expansion does not happen or it is delayed. As Omaha continues expanding outward, Sarpy County really is positioned to capitalize on that continued residential growth as well as new industrial and commercial developments. So this report ultimately analyzes the major markets in the area: residential, retail, restaurant, office, hotel, and industrial, and how they performed historically in order to understand that demand and how the project can be further developed. So again, that development impact, $37 billion in net new spending, $24 billion in net new earnings, 4,740 new full-time equivalent jobs. But I think the most important thing to note here is that although some demand can be accommodated with the current infrastructure in place, it's expected that developers and population would go elsewhere, especially for the industrial market. And due to the lack of interstate accessibility within the state of Nebraska to the west of Sarpy County and the fact that Douglas County is essentially built out, it is likely that the state of Nebraska would lose demand as well as these major developments to neighboring states such as Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri. So ultimately, a lot of impact that this project would miss out on if it was not to be implemented over this 30-year time period that is shown. But I think that pretty much concludes the executive summary portion of it. Again, not sure if anyone has any questions, but we can try our best to answer this.
Questions for Lexi or Rob? No, we don't have any. I'll just comment. Really appreciate your guys' effort on this. It's a really professional product, and it's going to help us in a lot of different ways moving forward. So appreciate your effort here.
I didn't, we really didn't have any questions, but on page 95, can you go to that page, Lexi?
Yes. It would be easier if I just stop sharing for 1 second.
Where we have where it has Omaha with the office market, majority of that being Sarpy County, can we make that change to have it be Sarpy instead of Omaha?
Yeah, so these are sub-markets and markets determined by CoStar, which is what we use to assess a lot of the market trends and sub-markets within the specific commercial assets. So we can make a note that this majority of the area is Sarpy County, but it is labeled according to CoStar classifications as Southwest Omaha, South Central, and Southeast Omaha. So I don't know if that helps kind of clarify. It's not our, I guess, doing of labeling the area. It's more so by a lot of the data that we source from CoStar.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
No.
Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it. Okay, since there's no questions or comments, take a motion on accepting or approving the impact study.
Motion Bellevue?
Second, La Vista.
Okay, motion by Bellevue, second from La Vista to approve the draft economic impact study done by Hunden. Any further comments or questions? Please vote.
Yea, 6, nays none, motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, guys, appreciate it. All right, moving on to item 4, which is resolution 50, approving the financial services proposals from CFO Systems LLC. Dan Hoynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member mayors. For several months, we've been analyzing options to provide financial services to the agency. As you're all well aware, that burden really has fallen, for the most part, the last 2 or 3 years on the city of Papillion, specifically Treasurer Green. I think Phil articulates it best by saying we went from writing 5 checks a month to over $100 million project. And the complexities of taking federal money and audits are the conventional wisdom, and there was consensus among the administrators, is a little reluctant to hire full-time, not coming with that recommendation, but there is a very competent firm, CFO Systems, within the city of Omaha. And so we had them screened. Chris Myers researched them, found them to be credible. We met a couple of different times, and we're all comfortable making this recommendation. It's an a la carte financial services, Mr. Chair, mayors, where it ranges from $125 per hour for, I think, just basic accounting services to $300 for CFO. Our account does get a CFO. In this particular case, it's Mr. James Timmerman. He is here. If you have any questions, raise your hand, James. He has almost 30 years of financial experience, a lot of that as a CFO. But again, his works as or for CFO Systems, but James will be our point of contact. If this is approved, I think that Treasurer Green plans on starting to offload a lot of these complexities to him at 6 o'clock tonight, Phil? Is that what you told me? You know, I'll pause there and answer any questions you have with the understanding that Mr. Timmerman, who effectively would become, you know, our contracted CFO, if you have any questions, I'm sure that he would be. And I did caution Mr. Chairman, you would not make him sing his fight song if you called him up. But he's here, so I'll pause for questions.
I've just got a quick one really of Phil, and I'll echo Dan's words. I know that this has turned into more than what it probably was. Can you tell us today how many hours approximately that weekly or monthly that you're probably putting into it, Phil?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Again, Phil Green, Treasurer. I would say I'm averaging probably 45 to 50 hours a month, something like that. And so it comes in waves. Obviously, the complexity has just grown, not only because of the construction, but now we have 2 full-time employees, and so there's payroll every other week. Sarpy County has done a good job on the back end of kind of setting things up with ADP, but there's still tracking that needs to be done, transfer of funds from our main account to the payroll account, those kinds of issues. So yeah, it's probably about 50 hours a month.
About that much, okay, and I appreciate that. You must not have been at the meeting when you volunteered for this position.
So that's about 6,000 to 8,000 a month. Is that what we'd be spending?
I took a look at it. About 85,000 a year probably would be my rough guess right now. You know?
And thank you, Mayor Heike. I forgot to mention that it's obviously not in the budget, but we are, for the most part, finalizing a budget amendment where we can absorb these fees by the reallocation of other costs, and we'll be following that up. We want to make sure we got the contract approved first, and we'll follow up with the budget amendment that won't increase the authorization appropriation for the agency. We'll do it within the current budget.
And just an estimate, Dan, obviously to bring someone on a full-time basis, we would be probably with benefits in the $170,000, $180,000 range.
There's no way I'll confess to that number. My CFO might listen to it.
That was my estimate, Bill. Obviously, that's a big dollar figure for contract services. Just keep us informed as this goes on, that if it turns into where a full-time employee would be more cost savings for us, that we would take a look at it.
So just, having worked with attorneys in the past, their level of specificity on invoices is pretty hard to discern exactly what kind of work was done. So as CFO Systems invoices, so at what level of detail can we expect to know that we're getting the service that we're paying for, if that makes sense?
Again, James Timmerman, CFO Systems. Oh, where? Yeah. Typically, we can bill as much we can send as much detail as needed by the agency.
Well, we have to be transparent, obviously, because we're using tax dollars. But I think what I'm asking you to do is find a happy medium, because we don't want you spending all your time doing invoices.
No.
I mean, that's not cost effective either, but at least enough detail to know that even a non-accountant can discern that, this looks about right.
Okay. No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, because typically our invoices aren't the type of details as attorneys' invoices, but we can provide enough detail to know what work we're performing.
Well, we'll take a look and we'll provide feedback and see how it goes.
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right,
we're
great.
still in the baby stages of being an agency, to be honest, and as we continue to track, so we can make decisions on if we go to a full-time employee or continue. That it has, at least in my mind, it has nothing to do with any mistrust in your firm. It's that we're trying to get our head wrapped around everything that we.
And I will say, just in terms of our firm as well, I have worked on projects where I have recommended a full-time hire, so we're not afraid to.
Yeah, we would appreciate
tell you
that for sure.
You need full-time.
Very good.
We'll look forward to working with your
I look
team.
forward to it as well.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by La Vista, second by Springfield. Any other questions or discussion? Please vote.
Yea, 6, nays none, motion carried.
Okay, item 5 is Resolution 51, acknowledging and accepting Sarpy County's contribution of certain American Rescue Plan Act funds. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Members. It is what it says it is. It's just acknowledging the acceptance. There will be a subsequent agreement presented that puts detail in to make sure that the agency complies with the requirements as set forth through the ARPA guidelines.
Any comments or questions? Looks like it's missing a whereas about being nice to Don Kelly in there, but other than that, it looks pretty good. Motion?
Motion to approve without Commissioner Kelly's amendment.
Second.
Was that you, Rusty?
Oh, that's a Papillion.
Okay, Mike. All right, we have a motion by LaVista, second by Papillion. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Yay, 6, nays none, motion carried.
Okay, item 6 is Resolution 52, authorizing the execution of a license agreement between Sarpy County and City's Wastewater Agency and the Union Pacific Railroad Company. Jeff Thompson.
Chairman Kelly, agency member, mayors, thank you. The resolution we have here before you, as you may recall, on segment 4, we did something similar with Burlington Northern. There's 2 rail lines that run along perpendicular rather to La Platte Road, Bellevue's jurisdiction. Just south of Highway 34. We have the Burlington Northern agreement in place. I've been working on this one for quite some time, similar requirement to what we did with Burlington. So we're bringing this before you. It's relatively close. I think we're a week, maybe 2 weeks out, but we wanted to get the authorization for execution of this agreement once we have it in hand, because it is a lot of work to do around the railroad, and it's very tedious, detailed work that they want to get started on relatively soon. So we'd ask for your consideration in approving this.
Questions for Jeff? Motion, please.
I'd make a motion to approve this upon Engineer Thompson's approval that everything's met.
Okay. Would that be an amendment? That'd be an amended motion, wouldn't it? No?
Yeah,
I think it's included.
It's
Not so
included
sure.
in that? Okay.
yeah, I'm not so sure. It wasn't written in the resolution specifically that Adam and I had to approve the agreement before.
Yeah, it's to authorize the execution of license agreement approved by administrator, treasurer, board chair, and approved for by council.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second, Gretna.
Okay, I have a motion by LaVista, second by Gretna. Any further comments or questions? Please vote.
Yay, 6, nays none, motion carries.
Item 7 is Resolution 53, authorizing the chair to execute the NDEE air quality permit. Jeff.
Chairman Kelly, thank you. This application, or resolution rather, is for an air quality permit that's required for the emergency generators that we would potentially run. Well, they'll exercise occasionally just to make sure that they're in good working condition throughout the year. But in order for us to actually run them and operate them as part of any type of an emergency action, we have to have this particular permit from the NDE. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve this resolution.
Second, Bellevue.
Okay, motion by Sarpy, second by Bellevue. Any further comments or questions? Please vote.
Yay, 6, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, item 8 is Resolution 54, authorizing the agency board chair and vice chair to execute land rights purchase agreements and related instruments. Adam Charlson, legal counsel.
Thank you, Chairman Kelly. This is the remaining 3 tracks in ZC3 I mentioned earlier. I think it's tracks 3, 4, and 5 for a total purchase price of $40,000 for permanent and temporary easements.
Questions for Adam? Motion, please.
Bellevue motion.
Papillion second.
Motion by Bellevue, second by Papillion. Any further comments or questions? Please vote.
Yay, 6, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, item 9 is Resolution 55, approving the official logo and the branding guidelines of the Sarpy County and City's Wastewater Agency, Dan Hoynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member mayors. For most of this discussion with Lisa, and it should be brief too, you've all, I think, seen some versions of it. The plan, if this is approved, would be to stand up the website, the videos that you all helped with here 2-3 weeks ago, by the middle of next week. So Lisa, if you can give them a preview into what they're looking at and what the branding guidelines mean.
So the logo that was shown to all the administrators at the administrators meeting, and all of them agreed that they liked this logo. And we're going with SCCWWA because the SCCWA was taken. So in order to keep the website and all the logo and everything else consistent, we wanted to go with SCCWWA. But the logo, as you can see, is kind of a pipe with in the shape of an S. And the branding guidelines is basically just a set of rules and guidance for marketing partners so that they know what colors and fonts and size to use if we send them anything to print for us. So that's what the branding guidelines is about. It helps to keep communication with regard to the agency consistent across all media. If there's any questions, I can try and answer some. Megan from Scapande, I think you've all met her. She came up with this logo for us and helped us through this process.
Billion will make a motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right.
I like it a lot.
I have a motion by Papillion and a second by La Vista. Any further comments? That's just that's a mouthful of an acronym right there.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
So can we just say like schwa or something?
No comment.
I want to applaud the administrators for coming together and making a decision in a lot shorter time than it usually takes for these type of exercises. So
Yeah. No, it's very good. I think very well done. So please vote.
I see Paul over there smiling. It was not as easy as it looks up here.
again,
But you're appropriate, and I'm remiss in not saying that it was a lot of help and very collaborative.
staff always makes the elected look the smart ones, right?
That's right. Please vote.
We did.
Yay 6, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, item 10, Resolution 56, approving the memorandum of understanding regarding the grading and construction permits for the work on the watershed. Jeff Thompson, Agency Project Engineer.
Chairman Kelly, thank you again. This resolution was brought before you in light of some concerns that the NRD had in regards to the agency's project crossing multiple jurisdictional lines, in particular the grading and pipe installation spanning, Bellevue to Papillion to Springfield, Sarpy County, into potentially Bellevue, Gretna and others at some point. So they'd asked that we bring an MOU before the board and the agency members individually approving Sarpy County's authorization essentially to enforce any actions necessary should there be any deficiencies on the project related to the grading and other activities. So be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Jeff? Comments? Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Papillion, second by Springfield. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Yay 6, nays none, motion carried.
Item 11 is Resolution 57, approving the interlocal agreement between the Wastewater Agency and the City of Bellevue regarding payment of expanded force main costs for the expansion of the wastewater system within Bellevue's extraterritorial jurisdiction. Adam.
Thank you, Chairman Kelly. This is the follow-on agreement between the agency and Bellevue that follows the version we did back in January of this year, where it laid out the procedure to allocate the reimbursement of some of that force main costs in Bellevue. And once the construction costs became known, there was a piece in that prior agreement that said we had to come back and update the percentage remittance out of connection fees to reimburse Bellevue over time. And that's pretty much all this does.
Questions for Adam? Motion, please.
Motion Bellevue.
Second from Papillion.
Okay, motion by Bellevue, second by Papillion. Any further comments or questions? Please vote.
Yea, 6, nays none, motion carried.
Item 12 is Resolution 58, establishing and approving the waiver of connection fees applicable to certain agency construction projects. Jeff.
Chairman Kelly, thank you. This resolution may seem a bit absurd, but the long and short of it is there really are no provisions in our guidelines and policies that waive the sewer connection fee for the agency when we submit to agency members for building permits. So what we're asking for here is that we basically get a blanket waiver for all agency projects that the agency would own and operate from paying our own connection fees to ourselves. So like I said, seems a bit absurd, but wanted to close the gap and make sure that we brought it before everybody and everybody understood what the request was and why we're doing what we're doing. So be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Jeff? Motion, please.
So moved, Gretna.
Second.
Excuse me. Motion by Gretna, second by Springfield. Any further comments? Please vote.
Yea, 6, nays none, motion carried.
Okay. Item 13 is Resolution 59, granting an exception under the agency's growth management plan and policies for Groon Acres Replat 2 development. Jeff.
Chairman Kelly, thank you. This resolution for an exception request was brought before us by the city of Springfield. It's for estate planning purposes. The applicant owns approximately 72 acres. They'd like to subdivide 9.1 acres off for the home that exists on the site, with the balance of the property being put in an outlot for future development at some point down the road. It's consistent with our guidelines and policies as it relates to connection fee charges and things of that nature. I will say that typically property between 3 and 20 acres, we would charge a per acre fee, but it seemed a little harsh from a staff perspective to charge that for an estate planning effort. So our recommendation is to charge the per lot fee for the 9.1 acres. The additional property would pay the fee, whatever that may be, and however it's subdivided at some point in the future. Be happy to answer any questions.
Jeff, quick question. Is the applicant being required to dedicate any future easements for arterial roads or sewer lines?
Sewers, yes. I'm not sure we have the authority from an agency perspective to require roads, but the city of Springfield, because they are platting, I would suspect would make that request for road right-of-way and other easements necessary.
And dedicating those free of charge as part of this?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
At no cost.
And that's been we've done a half a dozen of these other ones with the same
Yes.
thing?
Yes, sir, we have.
Thank you.
Are they maintaining their septic system now and then going to connect later, or?
Correct, yes. Yeah.
Any other questions? Motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Springfield, second by Bellevue. Any further comments? Please vote.
Yea, 6, nays none, motion carried.
Okay, item 14 is Resolution 60, granting a boundary adjustment request under the agency's growth management plan and policies for Lot 4 and 5 and Outlot B for Gemini. Chuck Thompson.
Chairman Kelly, thank you. This resolution for a boundary adjustment was actually brought before us by the city of Springfield as well. Project Gemini, Raven Northbrook, Facebook, they've got multiple names, but nonetheless, they purchased an additional 80 acres that's contiguous to the property that they are currently developing in Springfield's jurisdiction along Fairview Road and roughly 156th Street. They didn't own that parcel at the time. They've since have purchased it. They're going through the platting process with the city of Springfield. If you look at the UDZ and URZ boundaries, about 11 acres of the 80-acre parcel falls outside of the UDZ boundary area, which technically by our policies and guidelines is not ripe for development or shouldn't be developed without some consideration by the agency board. So the request is that we add the additional 11.2 acres, I believe it is, to the UDZ boundary and allow them the opportunity to develop that full 80 acres as opposed to, subdividing off that in some kind of an outlot or some other unconventional way, I guess. So be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions on this one? Okay, motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead. I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Papillion, second by Springfield. Any other comments, questions? Please vote.
Oops, Mayor Kindig, I didn't get your vote on there.
Showing 4 6s.
Are you a yay or a nay?
I'm a yay.
Okay. Yay 6, nays none, motion carried.
Okay, item 15, and the last item on the agenda today is Resolution 61, which grants an exception under the Growth Management Plan for Walnut Grove Estates Replat 1. Jeff.
Chairman Kelly, thank you. This resolution for the exception request was brought to us by the city of Bellevue. The applicant is actually trying to settle her mother's estate. They being the daughter and son inherited about 23 acres of Lot 1, Walnut Grove Estates, Replat 1. They'd like to subdivide the property so that the son can have a 5-acre parcel and the daughter can keep the balance of that where the home and that sits. Again, it seemed a little bit harsh for us to charge a per acre fee on this development because it is a settlement of an estate. So our recommendation is that we would charge the per lot fee for 2 lots as opposed to the per acre fee on the full 23 acres. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So when, let's say the 5 acres, and he decides to sell that then to a developer that's going to break that up into different lots. Once we grant this exception, then could there be additional fees later if he sold it for development?
Yes. We would, yes. If a development plan came before Bellevue, I guess staff's expectation would be that, we would review that plan. If it was more smaller lots, and it was on a per lot fee, we would charge the difference between what we've already collected and what would be due at that particular point in time.
Okay.
Any other?
Motion, Bellevue.
Second.
Motion by Bellevue, second by La Vista. Comments? Please vote.
Thank you.
Yay 6, nays none, motion carried.
Okay, our next meeting is going to be on December 14th, which is a little off cycle. So mark your calendars. And all the agenda items have been addressed as published, and the agency board is now adjourned.